So in this video is the last for the review from Unit 2. This is about utility, which is more about consumer satisfaction. So utility is, it'd be nice if I could spell it. At some point, I'm going to learn how to spell, and then it's going to be really exciting. Utility is a measure of satisfaction by consumers. And it's kind of an arbitrary, abstract idea, arbitrary. But it's this notion of like, how satisfied are you from consuming something? So we'd say, well, this gave me 5 utils worth of satisfaction or something along those lines. And it's really an entirely personal or subjective way to think about it. The law of diminishing marginal utility states that as you consume increasing quantities of a good, we'll just type it out, quantities of a good, your utility will diminish. So that's the idea that, like, no matter what kind of good, eventually you will start to see this occur. And I often have students who want to argue with me all day long, and they'll go, oh my goodness, this can't be true. It is. It doesn't matter what kind of good it is. If I sat you down and I said, you're going to consume 1 million, of these, then eventually, yeah, you won't get as much enjoyment out of the millionth and first as opposed to the first, second, third, and so forth. Students often miss that distinction here. They go, well, of course I would still, like, they go, what about diamonds? And I said, okay, fine, diamonds. I give you one beautiful 1 carat diamond, and then the second beautiful 1 carat diamond, and a third beautiful 1 carat diamond. And the thing is, you're not allowed to sell them. You just have to keep them. You have to hang on to them. Well, the first one, beautiful, wonderful. It's lovely. You get lots of compliments. And the second one, beautiful diamond ring. You put on your hand. Okay, that's kind of weird. Now you have 2 of them. Third one, that's really strange. But you get to the 4th or 5th one, the value of the enjoyment that you're getting from the 4th one is less than the very first one you got. The very first one you got, you were really excited about. But the 4th one, you're like, well, that was cool. I like having it. But at the same time, you don't enjoy it as much as you enjoy the very first one or the very second one, because you have diminishing marginal utility or additional utility. The idea of marginal analysis as related to utility and cost states that as we consume, we should consume by comparing the additional utility to the additional cost of the good. In other words, we shouldn't look at the amount in total. Never look at the total of the amount of the goods cost or what we've spent already. That's called a sunk cost. But instead, we should kind of compare. Well, if I want this 4th slice of pizza, it's going to cost me $3. Does the 4th slice really justify $3? I don't know, but that's the additional cost is 3. The additional utility is 3. Utility maximizing rule tells us how much to consume. And that is that we should consume up to and including when the additional utility equals the additional cost of a good. And so formula-wise, that looks like this. Quantity where, right? And so consume the quantity where the marginal utility per dollar is the marginal utility equals the marginal cost. That's the simple way to do that. And then we also have kind of a separate notion here of utility maximization when you have the second added part is when you have a budget. So we're going to kind of add a little bit to this. And this tells us how much to, be nice if I could even have grammar, how much to consume of a set of products. So consume up to and including where the marginal utility per the dollar spent on good A, so the marginal utility of the last unit of good A divided by the dollars spent on good A is equal to the marginal utility of the last unit of good B divided by the dollars spent on good B. So that's how we'd be able to figure out, like, are we consuming the right bundle of things? And that's typically given as mu over P is equal to mu over B, right? I would say B in this case. So like sub B is kind of the way to think about it. So sub B. So it kind of looks like that, like the marginal utility per dollar over of good A versus the marginal utility per dollar of good B. Might be easier to think about it with an example problem. So I've given you apples and oranges here. Just given the table and a consumer income or budget constraint of $7, what's the right combo? And so in order to do these, we have to figure out what's the marginal utility. And for the first unit, it's the change in total utility divided by the change in quantity. Well, the change in quantity was 1, and the change in total utility was 20, so marginal utility is 20. The next one is change is 15 divided by 1, so this is 15, this is 10, 5, and 2. And these, if we added the marginal utility per dollar, it's divided by $1, divided by $1, divided by, you get the picture, right? So it's actually the same for all of these. Divided by 1, so that's 2, equal to 5, equal to 10, equal to 15, equal to 20. Now we're going to do the same thing over here. And for this one, it's the same mathematical figuring, right? Marginal utilities. And then we figure out what's the marginal utility per dollar, but we notice the oranges are 2 in this case. So divide by $2. So that's 15. So this one divided by 2 is 10. Divided by 2 is 7.5. Divide by 2 is 5. Divide by 2 is 2.5. And then we're going to look for where these numbers, the 2.5 to the 15s, equal 20 to 2s, right? So starting with the first one, there is no 20, so we can skip that one. 15s. Well, 15 and 15, the next question is, do we use the whole budget? Well, with one orange, that's the 15 here, that's one orange, that's $2. And with this 15 over here, that's 2 apples, that's $2, that's 4. We have 7, so we're going to move on to the next one. 10. There's a 10 and there's a 10 right here. And so we look at it and we go, how much would 2 oranges would be $4, would be 4. And I'm just going to write kind of that off to the side. That's 4. And then over here with that 10, that's $3. So the correct combination would be 3 apples and, sorry, I can't read, 2 oranges. So that would be the correct answer. So let's put that actually here. 2 oranges and 3 apples. Applies apples because their mu over p's are equal at that point. That's the explanation. So commonly asked question on the AP test, and this is not going to be one where you could just be like, 2 oranges, 3 apples. They're going to ask you to explain it, and this explanation should be sufficient. If you want, you could even say like 10 is equal, and we used the whole budget. That would be a good maybe additional part to add on there. If someone buys 2 goods and uses their entire budget, but the last unit of good A provides 5 utils per dollar and the last unit of good B provides 8, what should the consumer do? Well, fairly certain here, right? We could set it up a little thing here where we said 5 is less than 8. Now in class, you may have remembered me doing this in class. I did one of these. 5 is less than 8. So what should we do? Well, we should consume more of this, more of that. And we should consume less of the one that's providing us 5. So less of A and more of B. And that's because, think about it like this. If you were, say, at this point where you were consuming 4 oranges and you were consuming 1 apple, right? And assume that that was even within your budget. I know it's not, but think about it that it could be. That you were up here with 1 apple and 4 oranges. So you had a 5 for this one and you had 20 for that one. What do you need to do in order to get you to 3 apples and 2 oranges? What do you need to do? Well, you need to move back in the line on the oranges side, and you need to increase the amount of apples that you consume. And that holds true over here. So if you've got the same situation, 5 and 20, you should consume more apples and less oranges. And that's actually what our table up there even tells us. So hopefully that helps you make sense of the utility maximizing rules. I'll see you next time.